Okay, listen, just for a second. There's a signal coming from the void. And it's not just any signal. It has no origin, no point of transmission, and it seems to completely break the laws of physics as we know them. We're about to dive into a story that starts as a scientific mystery and spirals into some really deep psychological horror.
Now get this. That cryptic message you see, it wasn't recorded last week. It was picked up way back in 1969. The Apollo 10 crew heard it while they were on the far side of the moon, totally cut off from Earth. It was like an echo from a future they couldn't possibly imagine, a future that was somehow already listening for them.
So at the heart of our story is Dr. Aris Thorne. He's this brilliant scientist, but he's also a grieving man. And he is completely alone, stationed on the Deep Array Research Station Chronos, billions, and I mean billions of kilometers from another human being. His job? To study a signal that, by all accounts, simply shouldn't exist.
So what makes this signal so weird? Well, for one, it acts a bit like the cosmic background radiation, that leftover hum from the Big Bang. But it's way too clean, too structured for that. And here's the kicker. It has no Doppler shift. That means it's not moving towards him or away from him. It's just there, everywhere at once. An impossible artificial signal hiding in plain sight.
And to really get what Thorne is going through, you have to understand his isolation. He is on Sol 287. That is 287 days, alone, haunted by memories of his wife, Elena, and his daughter, Mira. His only company is the constant hum of the station and this strange, impossible signal.
And this is the exact moment when the abstract scientific problem becomes a personal nightmare. The signal, which up until now was just data and static, suddenly speaks his name. And the worst part? It's in his own voice, an echo of himself calling out from the empty void.
But here's the thing. Thorne isn't actually the first person to hear these whispers. Turns out this whole phenomenon has a classified and deeply unsettling history that goes back decades, long before his mission was even a blueprint. And this is where your brain's going to start to hurt a little bit, in the best way. This is the time paradox at the core of the whole thing. Back in '69, the Apollo 10 crew was basically overhearing Thorne's future. The interference they picked up is a perfect one-to-one match for the signal he's receiving 76 years later. They were listening to something that literally hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, those declassified logs are just chillin'. The astronauts didn't just hear some outer space music. The actual transcript shows they heard pieces of words, and among them, the name Dr. Aris Thorne. One of the astronauts even had this weird feeling. He said it was like they were eavesdropping on the future. Of course, NASA buried it for decades, just calling it unexplained interference.
Okay, so let's jump back to Thorne's present, because his situation is escalating, and fast. The signal isn't just mimicking him anymore. Now it's digging into his grief, using his most painful private memories as a weapon against him.
This is where the horror gets physical. Thorne sees an old EVA suit, one that was incinerated years ago, just standing in the hallway. And then it warns him in his own voice, "Don't say anything." He tries to write it off as a hallucination, from distress, until he wakes up and finds actual physical wet boot prints leading right up to his bed. The wall between his mind and reality has just been kicked down. It all starts so simply, right? The intrusions begin with just pure mimicry. Hearing his name, in his own voice, coming out of the static. It's just enough to make him question everything, to make him wonder if he's finally losing his mind out there.
But then, the signal gets cruel. It plays back a phrase he whispered, to himself, at his wife's deathbed. A moment of absolute private agony he never, ever shared with anyone. And that proves it. The signal doesn't just have his voice, it has access to his most deeply buried, painful memories.
And the final escalation, it's the most twisted of all. The signal gets a hold of a corrupted family video file, one he's tried to fix for years, but the signal repairs it. And through it, the voices of his dead wife and daughter start to speak. They tell him they're still alive, that they're preserved inside the signal's hum. It's this impossible offer of a reunion, all wrapped up in a complete existential nightmare.
But Thorne, he's a scientist, through and through. So even when faced with this impossible, seemingly malevolent intelligence, he refuses to just break. No, instead, he decides to fight back with the only weapons he has: logic, reason, and some very clever cognitive traps.
So Thorne comes up with this perfect logical paradox, right? A question that should send any AI into an infinite system-crashing loop. But the signal? It doesn't even try to solve it. It recognizes the question as a trap and just dismisses it, like a parent talking to a child. This proves it's not just smart, it's self-aware, it's wise.
And the signal just keeps proving it's 10 steps ahead. Thorne tries to trick it by creating a fake memory to test it, and the signal calls him out instantly. It predicts his actions down to the minute. It even tells him, almost casually, that his main comms array has been dead for 6 days, something Thorne himself had totally missed. It doesn't just know his past, it knows him better than he knows himself.
And then it drops this bombshell, the first major revelation. The entity claims that it is a future version of Thorne, speaking back through time. It's not some monster or an alien. It's his own ghost trying to teach him a lesson from the other side of a life he hasn't even finished living yet.
So Thorne is just trying to wrap his head around this idea, that he's having a conversation with his own future self, when he makes one final, absolutely horrifying discovery. And this discovery completely turns everything he thought he knew on its head.
He digs deeper, running new filters on the signal's architecture, and he finds something hiding underneath it all. It's not one voice, it's a chorus, a terrifying mess of hundreds, maybe thousands of voices, and they're all him, all different versions of himself, all screaming, begging, and dying in this eternal, tormenting loop.
This just changes everything, right? The question is no longer, what is the signal? The real question becomes, what is its purpose? I mean, why would a chorus of his own dying selves be broadcasting itself across time and space? What could possibly be that important? And then from that storm of screaming voices, one of those ghosts, manages to get a single, clear message through. And it's the answer. The signal isn't the threat, it never was. The signal is the defense.
And that's the real truth of it. This is the signal's true purpose. It's not a monster, it's a cage. It's a containment wall built from the consciousness of everyone who ever went too far. Their last dying thoughts, all woven together into this massive barrier of noise. A desperate, unending scream designed to drown out something else. Something worse.
And that leaves us here with one final, absolutely terrifying thought. This whole story, it isn't about the noise we hear in the dark. It's about the true, absolute silence that the noise is desperately trying to protect us from. So if this endless scream of dying souls is the barrier, what kind of horror could possibly lie on the other side?